The royal escape pod fell from the sky like a dying star, trailing smoke and fire. It crashed into the wastelands of a dead planet, far from help, far from hope. No one chased after it, no one cared where it landed. The galaxy had already declared the royal family lost, and the little alien girl inside, just a child, was now forgotten. Her name was Ziri. She was small, blue-skinned, and dressed in torn royal silks. Dust covered her face, and her fingers trembled as she reached for the broken control panel. Her voice cracked when she whispered into the pod's weak radio. "Help me." "Please," she said, but the signal faded before it reached anyone. No one answered. No one ever would. She was alone, deep in enemy space, with no guards, no food, and no air left in the tank. Her body ached, her leg was hurt, and her breath grew slower. Ziri curled up on the cold floor, whispering to herself like she was singing a lullaby. Her people had promised to protect her, but when the palace was attacked, the guards left first, and the generals, then the ships. No one waited for her. She wasn't a queen, not yet. She was just a girl they had no use for, but hundreds of miles away, a lonely outpost, hidden between cliffs. Something stirred. A human soldier named Mason sat in a quiet shelter, eating cold rations, his battle days long behind him. He had retired from war, wanting peace, wanting silence. His only companion now was Rex, his old military dog. Rex had silver fur and a scar down his face, a sign of battle survived. Suddenly, the monitor blinked. Strange signal hit the edge of the system. Mason leaned forward, confused. The frequency was alien, old, and weak, but there was something in it. A whisper, a cry. Then Rex's ears perked up. Dog stood still, staring toward the mountains. He sniffed the air, growled low, then turned and ran. Mason shouted, but Rex didn't stop. Mason grabbed his gear, confused but alert. The last time Rex acted like this, they had found wounded soldiers under rubble, people left for dead. He followed, boots hitting rocky ground, heart pounding with questions. Back on the crash site, the princess slept in silence. Her breathing was shallow, her eyes fluttered, temperature dropped. The pod's life support was almost gone. But outside something moved. Claws scraped over metal. A creature with 6 legs and glowing eyes circled the pod, sniffing for food. It roared and slammed its weight against the side. Ziri jolted awake, her eyes widened. She tried to scream, but no sound came. The pod shook. Side cracked open. The beast leaned in. Then came a loud bark. Rex slammed into the creature with full force, knocking it sideways. The dog bit deep into its neck, pulling it back from the pod. The monster shrieked, rolled, and tried to fight back, but Rex was faster. He moved with the precision of a war machine. His teeth tore into the creature's flesh until it stopped moving. Ziri saw it all from inside. A dog, a real Earth dog, had come for her. She didn't know why, but her tears returned, not from fear, but something else. For the first time in days, she didn't feel like she was going to die. Rex barked again and stood guard over her pod. Moments later, Mason arrived. His rifle was ready, but he stopped when he saw the dead creature, and the pod, and the small girl inside. She looked at him, too weak to speak, but her eyes were wide with both fear and wonder. Mason lowered his weapon and stepped forward. "You're just a kid," he muttered. Ziri blinked, trying to understand his words. Her hands reached out slowly. She thought he might hurt her, maybe sell her, like others had done to her kind before. But Rex stepped between them, wagging his tail. Ziri touched the dog's head, whispering something in her language, and Rex didn't move. He just stood there, calm and proud, like a soldier on duty. Mason stared at the girl. He saw bruises, old scars, and something deeper, something broken. She had nothing left. He took off his jacket and wrapped it around her. Rex barked once, short and clear, like a signal. Mason looked up at the gray sky, then at the desert behind him. "All right, boy," he said. "Guess we're not done saving." People. Far above them, satellites blinked red. The signal was sent. Someone, somewhere, had noticed. And others were already on their way, not to help, but to hunt. The girl was not safe yet. She was not alone anymore. And that changed everything. Rex ran ahead through the burning wasteland, his paws silent on the cracked stone. Mason followed close behind, carrying the little alien girl in his arms. She was barely awake, her head resting against his chest, her silver eyes open only a little. The planet was hot, cruel, and lifeless. Wind howled like ghosts, sweeping sand over the ruins of old war machines and shattered satellites. The desert was filled with broken things, metal bones of forgotten wars, dead ships half buried in dust, and warning signs that no longer blinked. No one came here anymore. That's why they thought she would die here. But the dog thought different. Rex didn't slow down. Led them around sharp cliffs, past toxic vents, and through tight cracks in the rocks like he had a map in his head. Mason had never seen him move like this. The dog was on a mission. Mason looked down at the girl Ziri. That was her name. She hadn't said it, but it was written on her escape band, royal code etched in faded gold. She didn't cry. She didn't talk. She just breathed, one shallow breath at a time. Suddenly Rex stopped. Mason froze, lowering behind an old engine shell. His eyes scanned the desert ahead. Then he saw it a glint in the sunlight. A scope. A barrel. Someone was watching. A bounty hunter, high on a ridge hidden behind rocks. The alien sniper watched them through his lens. He had cold eyes and a scar across his jaw. His species hated the royal family. The bounty on the girl's head was worth a ship full of gold. He smiled, adjusting his weapon. But something was wrong. His scope blurred. The wind picked up, sending fine red dust into his face. Then he heard it, a low, steady growl. He turned his head. Rex stood behind him. Before the hunter could scream, the dog lunged. His weight slammed into the hunter's back, knocking him off the ledge. They tumbled together, rolling down into the sand. The rifle clattered away. The hunter kicked wildly, drawing a blade, but Rex bit down on his arm. Blood sprayed across the rocks. Mason rushed toward the fight. He placed Ziri gently against a wrecked panel, raised his blaster, and aimed. The hunter shoved Rex off for 1 second, but that was enough. A single shot from Mason's weapon hit the alien in the shoulder. The hunter screamed, tried to crawl away, but Rex dragged him back by the leg, forcing him face down into the dirt. "Stay down," Mason warned. The hunter froze. His chest heaved. Blood soaked the sand. Ziri watched everything from her corner. Her eyes were wider now, clearer. She saw the man who had risked his life for her, the beast who had protected her like a soldier. She had grown up around guards who only followed orders. This was different. This was loyalty. The bounty hunter laughed weakly. "You don't know what she is," he said through his cracked teeth. "You think she's just a lost child? She's a symbol, a spark. If people find out she's alive, entire systems will burn." "I don't care," Mason said coldly. "She's alive. That's enough." The hunter stared up at him. "You'll be hunted. Both of you." Mason didn't answer. He turned away, walked back to Ziri, and lifted her again. The girl spoke softly. "Why? Why? Help me." Mason paused. Didn't have a full answer. Just said, "Because no one else did." Rex circled them once and barked twice. Ears alert again. There was more danger coming. The wind picked up. In the far distance, lights blinked in the sky. Not starships. Ziri whispered something in her own language, then clung to Rex's fur with her small hand. For the first time, her voice didn't shake. She wasn't crying. She was ready to move forward. And with that, the three of them disappeared into the desert. Shadows against a dying sun, one human, one dog, and one princess the galaxy had already buried. But they weren't dead yet. The sun never really set on this planet. Tit just burned less. The sky turned orange, the air thick with heat, and shadows stretched long over rusted skeletons of old machines. But even in the half-dark, danger was never far behind. Mason stood on top of a broken star cruiser, holding his blaster steady. Down below, Rex was still growling, his sharp eyes locked on the enemy crawling through the wreckage. It was another bounty hunter, Not the first, and definitely not the last. This one wore black armor with blood-red lines, and he moved like a panther. Quiet, fast, and cruel. His name was Kareth, and he didn't speak much. He didn't need to. His record was full of royal kills. He was a hunter of lost heirs, a cleaner of bloodlines, and now he had tracked Ziri to this very field of wreckage. Ziri, hid in a small gap between two cargo containers, her body still weak but her mind wide awake. She could hear every step, every shift of metal. She knew that sound. It was death, moving closer. Rex leaped forward, cutting through the silence like lightning. He slammed into Kareth, knocking the armored killer into a pile of ash and steel. But Kareth rolled with the fall, rose quickly, and swung a blade so sharp it sang through the air. Rex ducked and attacked again. Claws and metal clashed. Kareth kicked the dog hard, throwing him into a shattered turret. Rex yelped, but didn't stay down. Mason jumped down, fired once, twice, missing by inches. Kareth dashed behind cover. Then came silence again, sharp and cold. "I don't want to kill you," Mason called out, voice calm but firm. "Just walk away." Kareth stepped out slowly, dragging his blade along the metal floor. "You're protecting royalty," he said. "That makes you a traitor to the peace accords." "She's a child," Mason snapped. "And she's alone. She's a cause," Kareth replied. "If the galaxy learns she survived, war will follow." Mason raised his blaster again, and let the galaxy burn. The words hung heavy in the air. Kareth lunged. They fought between the ruins like two storms colliding. One human, one monster. Mason dodged, blocked, struck with his rifle. Stock. Kareth moved like a shadow, slashing and spinning. His blade grazed Mason's side, tearing his shirt, drawing blood. Ziri peeked from her hiding place. Her heart pounded as she saw Mason stumble. Then she saw Rex rise again, blood dripping from his side. The dog didn't wait. He charged Kareth. From behind, teeth sinking into the assassin's leg. Kareth screamed and swung wildly, but this time Mason was ready. He aimed at the exposed gap in the armor and fired. The shot hit Kareth, straight in the chest. The bounty hunter fell to his knees, choking on his breath, staring up at the stars he would never see again. Leaned against the wall, gripping his wound. Rex limped to his side and sat down, tongue out, breathing hard. Ziri ran to them, her small hands shaking. "You're hurt," she said softly, touching his side. "I've been worse," Mason replied. Trying to smile, Ziri looked at the body of the bounty hunter. She stepped toward it, then stopped, eyes wide. Around his neck was a crystal tag, a royal tracker. "They'll know he's dead," she whispered. "They'll know where." Mason picked up the tag, crushed it under his boot, and said, "Then we move faster." "Where will we go?" she asked. He looked at her, then at Rex, who was already scanning the horizon again. "We don't need a map," Mason said. "We follow the dog." Rex barked once and started walking. Then before. She didn't know where this journey would lead, but she knew this: she was no longer just cargo to be rescued. She was a survivor, and something deep inside her, something royal, something fierce, had just awakened. The wind howled louder as they crossed the burnt ridge. Every step echoed like it didn't belong on this planet, like the world itself didn't want them here. Broken moons hung low in the sky, watching silently, and the ground below their boots was cracked and sharp. Mason walked with a slight limp. His side still bled, but he didn't slow down. Rex walked beside him, his fur dirtied with dried blood, but his eyes never blinked. And between them, holding on to Mason's arm, was Ziri, her small fingers curled around his sleeve, her head held higher now than before. They didn't speak much. Silence wasn't empty. It was full of questions, full of memories none of them wanted to say out loud. Ziri hadn't cried since the fight. Her fear had changed. She no longer looked like a girl waiting to die. She looked like someone walking toward something, even if she didn't know what it was. By nightfall, they reached a strange place. The ground turned dark and glassy, like something had melted. The rocks long ago Sharp towers of crystal rose from the earth, glowing faintly from inside. They had arrived at the forest of glass, a place feared by both locals and soldiers. Maps warned people not to go near it. Something about the way it echoed sound, how signals got lost inside, how things entered and never came back out. But Rex didn't stop. He walked straight into the glass maze. Mason followed. Ziri hesitated. For a moment, staring at the strange lights dancing across the crystal towers. Her reflection blinked back at her a second to slow. She felt something here. Something old. But she followed anyway. Inside the forest, the light bent in strange ways. Mason's voice came back to him with a delay. Ziri's footsteps sounded like they were behind her, not under her. The dog moved calmly, nose low to the ground, leading them through tight turns and narrow paths. Then the path ended. They stepped into a circular clearing, surrounded by tall, glowing spires. In the middle was something unexpected, a shelter. Not a ruin, not old tech, but a working shelter made of steel and hidden panels. Someone had been living here, Rex growled. Mason raised his weapon slowly, stepped forward, eyes locked on the door. It was already open, not from rust or damage, like it had been left open on purpose. A voice called out from the dark. "You brought her here, didn't you?" A figure stepped out, a tall alien with one metal arm and deep scars across his face. He wore royal armor, but it was painted black, and the crest on his chest had been scratched out. Ziri froze. Her lips parted. Mason looked at her. "You know him?" "He was one of my guards," she said. "He vanished when the palace." Vorin looked at her without emotion. "I didn't vanish," he said. "I saw what was coming and refused to die for a crown that had already failed." "You were sworn to protect her?" Mason said sharply. Vorin laughed once, bitterly. "And where were you when your human wars burned cities to dust?" "Until loyalty became suicide." Ziri stepped forward, her voice quiet. "So you brought me here to kill me?" Vorin nodded. "It's better than letting the galaxy rip itself apart because of your blood." Before Mason could raise his weapon, a burst of air exploded behind them. Camouflage screens dropped, revealing hidden turrets aiming straight at them. Rex barked and stepped in front of Ziri, teeth bared, ready to fight again. "I didn't want it to end like this," Vorin said, stepping back into the shadows. "But the royal line ends here." Mason grabbed Ziri's hand and pushed her behind a crystal column. Blaster fire lit up the clearing, bouncing off the glass and blinding everyone. Rex darted between towers, drawing fire away. Mason fired back. Using the echoes to confuse the auto-targets, Ziri crouched low, hands over her ears, heart pounding. Then something strange happened. The crystal next to her glowed brighter as her hand touched it. Words appeared, ancient symbols only she could read. "A message from long ago," she gasped. Mason shouted, "What is it?" "It's not just glass," she said. "These towers are memory beacons. My ancestors used them to hide messages. Secrets." Looked up. "This place isn't a trap, it's a key." Vorin fired again, unaware of what she had seen. Ziri stood up, calm now, her fear gone. She had just remembered who she was. The clearing was still glowing with scattered lights. The air felt different now, heavier, colder. The crystals didn't just reflect the light anymore, they absorbed it. And in that strange silence, something ancient stirred. Ziri stood. In front of the glowing pillar, her hand pressed against its smooth surface. Her eyes were locked on the words floating in the crystal, letters only she could read. They weren't just warnings, they were instructions. They spoke of a hidden code buried in her blood, a last defense made by her ancestors in case the throne ever fell. Behind her, Mason reloaded his blaster, checking on Rex, who limped but refused to stop. They had survived so many battles already. But this was different. The enemy now knew them, knew Ziri had power. From the edge of the crystal forest, Captain Vorin stepped forward again. He no longer looked like a soldier. His black armor gleamed under the crystal glow, and his face held no regret. Ziri turned toward him, her voice calm. "Then why did you bring me here? You could have killed me anywhere." "I needed to see it," he said. I needed to see if you really carried the legacy. And now I know, that's why this ends here. 6 tall armored machines rose from beneath the glass, each shaped like a royal guardian. But corrupted, their eyes glowed red. Their arms turned into plasma blades. Vorn smirked. The machines surrounded them. Mason pulled Ziri behind him. You can't fight all of them. Rex growled, ready to charge. Ziri stared at the machines. They looked like statues from the palace halls. Once, they had protected her family. Now they hunted her. Then she remembered the words in the crystal. She stepped forward past Mason, past Rex, past the line of defense. Mason tried to stop her, but she raised her hand. The machines raised their blades but didn't strike. Instead, V spoke. Her voice echoed across the clearing. Not loud, but deep, full of something old, something royal. Spoke the command etched into the pillar. The red lights in the machine's eyes flickered. Voron's smile disappeared. No, he muttered. That's not possible. The override was erased. No, Ziri answered. It was hidden inside me. Bowed before the little girl. Rex stepped beside her, tail still raised, ears still alert, but no longer growling. Ziri turned to Voron, her voice steady. You betrayed the crown, but the crown remembers. Voron drew his weapon in desperation and fired. Before the blast reached her, one of the machines blocked it with its body. Lifting him off the ground, you can't bring them back, Voron said. Gasping. The galaxy Dosen T want a queen. I don't want a crown, Ziri said, but I won't let monsters wear it. She looked into his eyes, not with anger, but something colder. Disappointment. You were supposed to protect me. He had no answer. Ziri nodded once, and the machines dragged him away into the glass. Mason stepped beside her. Are you all right? No, she replied, but I know who I am now. Placed a hand on her shoulder. You don't have to. Be who they made you. You can be better. She looked up at him, a soft flicker in her eyes. I'll need help. You've got me, he said. And me, barked Rex, as if on cue. The forest dimmed around them, the glow fading slowly. But deep inside the pillars, new lights flickered, activating ancient paths only royal blood could open. Ziri turned toward the hidden road. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was the beginning of something bigger. The deeper they went into the crystal forest, the quieter the world became. The sky above disappeared behind sharp towers, and the ground beneath their feet turned smooth like glass. Mason checked his tracker, but the signal spun wild. No direction. No compass. They were moving blind now, guided only by a dog and a girl who had just awakened something ancient inside her. Rex stopped suddenly. His ears twitched. His nose turned upward. Something was close. Ziri walked ahead, touching each glowing tower they passed. The crystals pulsed with light under her fingers, whispering memories and flashes. Faces she didn't recognize, voices of kings and queens. Long gone, their secrets locked away for generations. Then she found it, a pillar larger than the rest. Cracked down the middle but still glowing faintly. This is it, she whispered. Mason looked around. What is it? Ziri stepped closer. A family didn't just rule, they guarded something. A code. A contract written in ancient galactic law, signed by all major empires before they turned against us. A contract? Mason asked. If I die, the royal bloodline ends, she said, and with it, the contract. Our people lose all rights. Their lands become open to invasion. Billions become slaves overnight. Mason stared at her. That's why they want you gone. You're not just a princess, you're the lock holding back a war. Ziri nodded. She placed her hand on the cracked pillar. A surge of light shot through the ground. Climbing through the crystals around them, the entire forest lit up like a beacon, sending pulses across the stars, far above the planet. In silent orbit, a listening satellite blinked to life, and far beyond that, in the throne rooms of rival empires. Red lights screamed across control panels. She was alive, on a warship circling a nearby system. A woman in black armor stood still as the message appeared on her screen. Her face was hidden behind a sharp metal mask, but her voice cut through the command deck like a blade. Prepare the fleet. A soldier stepped forward, nervous. Hi, Commander Velisis. Are we confirming the signal? Velisis didn't answer him. She turned toward the window, staring into the black of space. She survived, she said softly. Then the purge wasn't enough. She raised her hand and pointed toward the planet. I want it burned. Back in the forest, the light faded, and Ziri stumbled. Mason caught her before she fell. You okay? He asked. It drained me, she said. That was a royal emergency signal. It calls on old allies if any still exist. Rex growled dot above them. The sky rumbled. Zer, I looked up. That was fast. A large ship broke through the clouds, sleek black, shaped like a blade. It didn't slow down. It aimed straight for the forest. Move, Mason shouted. They ran, dodging between glass pillars as fire dropped from the sky. Explosions shook the ground. Trees of crystal shattered. Razor drones swarmed from the ship, scanning for Ziri's. DNA.Rex jumped at one, tearing it from the air, and barked to warn the others. Ziri fell again, still weak from the beacon pulse. Mason lifted her without hesitation. This isn't rescue, he said. They're here to erase you. They won't stop, Ziri said. Not until I'm ashes. Mason looked back at the falling fire, his mind racing. Then we give them something else to chase. They ran deeper, where the light grew dim and the forest twisted into tunnels. There, hidden below layers of glass, they found something unexpected, an old temple buried underground, untouched by time, sealed by a door marked with the royal crest. The moment Ziri touched it, the door opened. Inside was a control room, ancient but still alive with power. Mason stepped inside, eyes wide. What is this place? Ziri stared at the glowing interface. The core of the pact. If I activate this system, I don't just confirm my claim. I triggered the second law. Mason looked at her. What does that mean? Ziri took a deep breath. It means any empire that tries to kill me now loses their right to exist. Above. Velisis watched as her ship's targeting system failed. Her drones dropped from the sky like stones. Her war console flashed red. Royal code detected, the AI repeated. Engagement forbidden. Her crew panicked, unsure what to do. Velisis removed her mask. Her eyes burned with rage. She just declared herself the rightful heir, she said. One officer stepped back. High Commander, if she lives, we'll lose half our systems, Velisis. Turned to him. Then we make sure she doesn't live. Ow. Down below in the hidden temple, Ziri looked at Mason and Rex. We don't run anymore, she said. Good, Mason replied. Because they're coming with everything they've got. Ziri stood tall, voice steady. Then we give them everything we are. The temple trembled under their feet, dust fell from the ceiling, lights flickered across ancient walls. Ziri stood in the center of the control room, the royal sigil glowing beneath her feet. She looked like a child, small and tired, but her presence filled the chamber like thunder above the planet. 5 warships circled like vultures, black and silver, each one bristling with weapons. Dait, High Commander Velisis stood at the front of her ship, eyes fixed on the glowing point on her screen. The girl had activated the pact. She had triggered the code written in blood and law. Now the galaxy was watching, inside the temple. Mason checked the final power cells. The backup shields were online, but barely. Rex paced near the door, ears pinned back, growling low. They'll send everything, Mason said. Bombs, drones, assassins, maybe even traitors from inside your own bloodline. Ziri didn't blink. Let them. He looked at her, something proud in his eyes. You sure you want to stand here? You can still run? I've been running since I was 5, she answered. It ends today. Outside, enemy ships dropped fire like rain. Forests burned. Glass towers shattered into dust. The land became a field of ash. The temple stood untouched, shielded by a power older than war. Then came the real strike. Velisis launched her elite dark pods. Crashed down around the temple each, one carrying a silent soldier bred for only one task: kill the heir. Rex, bolted forward before the first one could land. His body slammed into the pod as it opened, tearing through armor with brutal precision. He was a ghost of Earth's oldest wars, and he didn't stop. One soldier fell, then another, but there were too many. Mason fought beside him, blasting attackers. Back with every shot. Smoke filled the halls. Explosions cracked the walls. Yet the center chamber held strong, pulsing with light. Ziri stood still, arms lifted, voice steady as she spoke the final phrase. The royal code blazed through the temple, launching a signal so loud it broke across galaxies. It did more than confirm her title. It rewrote her place in history, far away. In distant empires, leaders froze mid-speech as screens filled with her image. A child, blue-skinned, wrapped in flames and light. Speaking words once thought lost. I am Ziri, daughter of the fallen line, last voice of the pact. I claim no throne, I claim my people's right to exist. Nations stopped their wars. Rival fleets turned away. The galaxy listened inside the temple. Valesis herself entered through fire and death. Her armor cracked, her blade drawn, her eyes burning with fury. You think you've won? She shouted. You've just made yourself a target for every power that fears change. Ziri looked at her calm. I didn't come here to win. I came here to be seen. Valesis raised her blade, but before she could strike, Rex lunged between them. The blade pierced his side, but he didn't fall. He kept pushing forward, forcing her back. Refusing to let her reach the girl, he growled once deep and final, and he bit down. Valesis screamed. Dropping her weapon, Mason rushed in and pulled her down, pinning her with one knee, aiming his blaster at her helmet. Try it again. I'll let him finish it. Valesis didn't move. She had lost, not to an army, not to a fleet, but to a dog, a soldier, and a girl with nothing left but fire in her soul. Later, as the fires faded and the enemy ships retreated, Ziri stood outside the temple watching the sky. Rex lay beside her, wounded but alive, his head resting in her lap. She stroked his fur gently, whispering thanks in her native tongue. Mason leaned against a broken wall, watching the horizon. What now? He asked. Ziri looked at him, then at the stars. I don't need a crown, she said. But if I build something new, I want it to be different, kinder, stronger, like him. She nodded to Rex, whose tail wagged once, slow and proud. And so the galaxy remembered a forgotten girl, not because she ruled with power, but because she survived with purpose. She was the princess who rose from Ashdod, and the human dog who saved her became legend.